Hello everyone, my name is Sally Higgins and I am one of the heads of TAF's Gender and Sexuality Alliance. I am happy to present in tandem with our Pride Month celebrations speaker Brian O'Callaghan, a retired NFL football player and author. After his career, Brian O'Callaghan came out as gay and went on to start the Brian O'Callaghan Foundation to provide scholarship and support for LGBTQ athletes. In addition to his advocacy work, he has published a memoir in 2019 titled My Life on the Line, a book that examines bigotry, self-hatred, and the ways in which his sport has shaped his life.
Hi, I'm Brady, and I'm a current football player here at TAF. Brian O'Callaghan plays college football for the University of California, Berkeley, where he earned All-American honors and was the recipient of the Morris Trophy, presented to the most outstanding lineman in the Pac-12 Conference. He was drafted by the New England Patriots in 2006, had a 6-year NFL career before retiring. In his memoir, O'Callaghan speaks about the ways in which football acted as a closet for his sexuality and the physical and mental tolls the sport took on him. Immediately following this, Q&A will be in the black box.
Hey Doug, happy graduation. You just received a full-ride scholarship to Berkeley, and that intimidates you. After your California high school all-star game against Florida, you realize that you don't know nearly as much about football as you could. And now it seems that life is pointing you in that direction. And yet, you're questioning the point of pursuing football, and beyond that, you are questioning your reasons for living. You felt discouraged and even shunned by friends and family your whole life. Hearing the word fag out of the mouth of your loved ones and knowing that they're talking about you. You, a gay football player. I know you think that's an oxymoron, and that's why your first goal is to make sure no one finds out. I know you are in pain. I know you are confused. I know you are battling an inner turmoil that'll last another decade. Breathe. You're about to enter the toughest years of your life. You're going to succeed at a sport that serves as your cover. While you're at Cal, you're even going to be voted the best offensive lineman by your opposing peers. They all think you're a force to be reckoned with. They see this potential in you that you have trouble seeing in yourself. You will make it all the way to the NFL, playing first for the New England Patriots and then for the Kansas City Chiefs. You're going to invest all of your energy and time into football so people refrain from asking your least favorite question, where's your girlfriend? You're going to start chewing tobacco in order to look more straight. Don't do it. You're going to gain as much weight as possible so that people see you as unattractive. You're going to do everything in your power to make sure no one finds out that you're gay. You know that if your cover is blown, you'll lose everything. If you're gay, you're as good as dead. You will live 29 years of your life in fear. You'll keep up this facade because you think there is no alternative. You'll want to escape the anxiety, to feel something other than trapped. This is why you will abuse drugs, especially painkillers. You will even spend and donate hundreds of thousands of dollars because you have no intention of needing it. Because after your NFL career, you plan to take your own life. But you won't. Your athletic trainer will notice your downward spiral and convince you to talk to a counselor. This will be the turning point for your whole life and give you the strength necessary to find out that people love you, your family, your friends, and your dogs. You will realize, Ryan, that you have been scared of nothing. This is not the end. No, this is just the beginning. You will soon feel free for the first time in your life. Heck, you might even find love with someone who understands you and your struggle. So again, breathe. Really, breathe. Believe it or not, it gets better for you. And soon you will want to share this newfound happiness and love with the world. Just hang in there a little longer, buddy. One day people will look up to you for your strength. I always gotta do a little life update. Don't put a temporary partner on a piece of media that's gonna last forever, because it'll haunt you for years to come. So I was gonna introduce that video before it played, but the idea behind that was CBS reached out and asked me to pick a kind of a pivotal moment in my life and write just a letter to my younger self, giving advice, kind of a look back, and so that's what that was all about. So I always like to start off by asking everyone in here, how many of you have family members that are lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, something other than straight? Okay, very few of you. So the reality is every one of you do. You just maybe not know it, or you just don't want to raise your hand because it's high school and it's a culture trying to look cool. But everyone's got that wacky aunt with too many cats, or that reclusive uncle that just never got married and collects too many things. But the reality is every single one of you has gay family members, and me personally, as it turns out, I have 5 just cousins and close family who are actually part of the community. But it took me coming out for them to actually open up, and honestly, a couple of them were pretty obvious, but I was just so in my own head about everything where I didn't take a moment to notice. Just from football, from college football, 7 of my former teammates have come out to me. I think we had 80 some odd guys on the team. 7 of them have come out. I know of 2 others. So you're working with about 10% of the people. I bring that up because you never know if the person around you is hiding something. It could be their sexuality or really what they're going through in general. And the importance of the language you use and how that might affect people. It was really the words out of people that I looked up to, mainly family, but also close friends. The negative things I heard about gay people from a very young age, that made me feel like I could never come out and be honest and be myself. I grew up in far northern California, about as opposite of Connecticut as it gets. Reading is, at least when I was growing up, I'm 40 now, but it was really a lumber industry town. Now it's best known for a religious cult, but that's another thing that's going on. So my dad ran a lumber company growing up. Mom stayed at home most of the time, at least the whole time I was in school, and had a very conservative upbringing. I like to say I'm a recovered Catholic, and so I had all that influence growing up, but that all made me feel that I could never be myself. Starting at 5, 6, 7 years old, I knew I was different. I didn't know I was gay. I just thought maybe the crushes or whatever on girls would just come a little later than my buddies. But by the time puberty hit, I knew for sure that I was gay, and hoping, praying that it was a phase. It only lasted so long before it turned into a quick reality, and based on everything I heard and the fear of losing friends, I quickly decided that I could never come out, and I didn't reevaluate that position in my mind. I didn't even give myself 10 minutes to think, maybe could I do it, until I was 29, 30 years old. So growing up in Reading, I didn't have a lot of outside influence. Here you guys are close to New York, somewhat close to Boston. You're not really in a bubble. Now the school's a bubble, whether you want to believe it or not, but it's also not the worst thing. But so really it was just, I was the big kid in town, and it was assumed that, I was going to play sports. I really didn't have any interest in sports. It's what my friends did. Growing up, the story I was told from my dad was that he played in the well, he said he played for the Giants for baseball, but come to find out 20 years later, he made it up to like the AAA for 1 year. And so I always thought I had to, live up to those expectations. So freshman year of high school was the first time I ever put on a football helmet. Hated it day one. Went home, told my family, can't stand it. And I was really given two choices. I either play sports or I get a job. So I played football. And, but quickly, just being a big guy, I was really good at it. I was at least able to get in the way and get some attention. And as the years went on through high school, I realized that, a team is actually a really good place to hide. You're suddenly one of 50 or however many people you guys have on your teams here, but I was suddenly one of 50 that could easily blend in. And football became the best excuse ever to either not date, because you're focusing on football, or it also became a great extension for my next years, because I really had no plans in life. So by my junior year in high school, the first school to offer me a scholarship was University of California at Berkeley, and I committed right away. I thought that making a decision, setting up the next steps in my life would kind of make everything else easier. Little did I know that as soon as you commit to one school, everyone comes out of the woodwork and wants you to play for them. But I stuck to my word. I ended up going to Berkeley, and that's when I realized that I actually had some real potential. As soon as you're in college, it's a bunch of people from a bunch of different areas, kind of like this school is, which is very unique, that you can come here and kind of make your own, make a new reputation, or kind of make it what you want to be. And so quickly at Cal, I made a lot of friends with the team, and even outside of the team, but I still had that one constant in football as my main distraction. By my junior year, the team was actually doing pretty good. Back then we had like Marshawn Lynch and Aaron Rodgers, and now Cal can't buy a good player, but back then we were pretty good, and the NFL started to look like a real reality. I never took school that serious because as you saw and heard in the video, I had no long-term plans. I'm not supposed to be here today. I was that mentally messed up where I thought that my parents would be happier with a dead son than a gay son. And I know how ridiculous that sounds now, but that's where my mind was back then. And really, that's not that long ago, but things have changed a lot. So when the NFL became a reality, I now had a direction, and thankfully, the Patriots saw my potential. And it's probably the best situation I ever ended up in. Being the opposite side of the country, and with the coaches that we had, it was the direction and the discipline I needed. But I still couldn't find the courage myself to actually come out and be honest. And there still weren't really gay people on TV. I think it was Will and Grace, but I didn't act like Will, and I wasn't Grace, and I just didn't feel represented, and feel like I could be myself, or feel like people would understand that gay people look like me too. And there was still not one kind of shining light from anyone that I respected and looked up to that I thought I needed their approval to make me feel like I could be honest and come out. And I was constantly looking for that, but at a certain point I just gave up and said, okay, this is it. My plan that I had to play football and then end my life, that was the new reality, and I had to follow through with it. Through college and the NFL, I had 6 shoulder surgeries, 3 knees, left hand, a dozen concussions, a lot of other injuries that weren't surgeries. And because of that, I was introduced to painkillers. And You guys are young. Hopefully most of you haven't ever taken one or don't ever need to, but anyone who's ever taken one understands that not only do they get rid of pain, but they give you this kind of euphoric feeling in your mind that makes you not feel like yourself. And at that point in time, I would pay anything and do anything not to feel like myself. So I quickly became addicted to painkillers, and that's what really got me through the last couple of years in the NFL. The NFL's a business. I think most people realize that. They're always trying to replace you with someone a little younger, a little cheaper. So you do everything you can to get every play out of it. And painkillers were it for me. They're don't start them because they're tough to kick, but I think like any addict, I thought I was doing a great job of hiding it. Yeah, there were other guys on the team who did it, and we would share some things, but as far as the staff knew, coaches knew, I thought they were all clueless. But one day I walk into the Chiefs facility, and the trainer pulls me aside and asks me what's going on. At that point I was on injured reserve because I tore my left shoulder for the 5th time. So he knew I was taking some pills because they gave it to me, but he didn't understand really what was going on or why I was doing the things I was doing. And that point in my life, I practiced a lot at controlling conversations and being able to talk about different random things so the conversation never got turned to my personal life. So when he suggested that he wants me to go speak to a therapist, I agreed. I thought saying no would raise more questions, and so I agreed, and I went and met with this lady named Dr. Wilson. She was this real spicy lady from the inner city that wasn't going to put up with me. I couldn't, my plan wasn't going to work. I couldn't really shake her. But after months of talking to her, I was clean about, or I came clean about my addiction and those types of things, but she finally got really to the root of the problems, and the football season was coming to an end, and I was spiraling because it was about to be time for me to end my life. And one night I was just at home severely depressed, and I emailed her and I said, hey, can we meet tomorrow? And she wasn't typically the type to respond right away, but for some reason she did. And we met the next day, and for the first time ever, it took me a good 20, 30 minutes sitting across a long conference room from her, but I said the words, I'm gay. And the first thing she did was stand up, come over and give me a hug, and told me I wasn't the first football player to sit in that seat and say the same thing. Now, I didn't obviously think I was the only one, but for her to be able to just say that right off the bat, and that actually very recently there was another Chiefs player sitting in that seat that came out to her and we're dealing with the same thing, I instantly felt a little bit of comfort. But it wasn't her approval that I felt like I needed. It was still the family that I was most worried about. And she basically in that meeting said, well, if you plan on just killing yourself, why don't you find out if you need to? And that makes a lot of sense. But to me, I was so messed up in the head where I just didn't even think about that. So I developed a plan to go back to California and talk to my family, and I did that. At that point, I hadn't spoken to my parents in a few months because I thought that, if I hadn't spoken to them recently, that, it'd be easier on them if I was gone, which, once again, is absolutely ridiculous, but that was just where my mind was at the time. And so when I reached out to him, went back out to California, I sat him down in the living room and told him I'm gay. And, that was the moment I feared my whole life. And my mom just stood up and gave me a hug. And now my dad wasn't jumping up and down happy, but he also wasn't throwing stuff, and it wasn't the end of the world like I thought it would be. At that point, he spent 30 years picturing me as the masculine football player. He believed everything I told him, and I told him a lot of
a lot of lies, and so he was shocked. And it took him about a year to actually bring it up and talk about it, which was fine. It was an okay response at the time. That's all I felt like I needed. And then when he finally did bring it up was after I started dating someone and introduced them, and that started the whole conversation. So my whole fears all along were invalid. I mean, I spent 30 years worrying about nothing. And it was 30 years of really torturing myself. And it was really all my fault, because if I would have looked around and really thought about it back then, people would have been accepting. And I mainly know that because after I did come out, I received countless phone calls from teammates and coaches just expressing their support and apologizing if they'd ever said anything, homophobic, which that's not what I wanted. And honestly, the whole time in the NFL, not one time did I hear anything homophobic. That just doesn't exist. High school, yeah, kids, I was one of them. I was the bully acting homophobic. I think it's safe to say that most of the bullies and most homophobic acting people have the most to hide, and that's kind of holds true to this day. And so the response was overwhelmingly positive. And since then, I've had countless, dozens of professional athletes, not just football, a lot of football guys, reach out to me and come out to me and tell me their stories. There's actually guys right now in the NFL who are open to their team, just not publicly in the media, and everyone's fine with it. That's just how far things have come. And a big part of what I try to do is encourage people to be their authentic self from an earliest time as possible. How many people in here are part of the LGBTQ community? Okay, a few. So there's 600 of you in here? Well, I guess not full, but 600 people at the school. 10% is usually a good estimate. So in reality, there's about 60 of you in here who are. And I know if you are closeted, you probably think I'm talking right to you right now, but I have no clue who you are, so I'm not. But it's got to be terrifying. I was sitting in a seat like this my rookie year in the NFL. Former defensive tackle named Ezra Tuolo. He played in the 90s, came out as gay, wrote a book. The NFL, my rookie year, brought him in to the rookie symposium. So the rookie symposium is, back then, it was like 3 days in Torrey Pines, Southern California, of classes like life lessons, how not to spend all your money, how not to have a kid, basic things. And they brought Ezra in to talk about sexuality, something very similar to this. He was a bit more upfront because it was a bunch of adults and not students, but I thought he was talking to me that whole time. So it was terrifying. So I 100% understand where you're at or how you might be feeling right now. But, I also like to ask, and I know, I've never had someone stand up and go, yeah, I'd have a problem, but if one of your friends did come out, would you have a problem with it? No one? No, once again, I know someone's not just going to raise their hand and start spouting bigoted things, but I think that shows if you are closeted, you should feel pretty good that your classmate will understand. I know it's high school, it's tough, especially in an environment like this where you're all living together, where most of you are living together, and it's a very traditional school. I know it's tough to be different, but I think you should at least feel a little better that if you do choose to come out, once again, I'm not at all pressuring anyone to. You got to do it on your own time. College is a great time, but I think it's proof that you would be all right if you did it now. And you wouldn't have to do what I did to basically frame your whole life as a cover. The only reason I played football was a cover, and that's exhausting. So at least take a little bit of comfort knowing that your friends say they would be all right with it. Once again, I hate hounding on it, but it's really important to understand that words do matter. I know that's very cliche, the whole sticks and stones things, but especially at an age like you guys are, everyone's listening. It doesn't mean you have to act a certain way, but just not being mean to try to seem cool goes a long way. Once again, I was that bully, that total insecure guy, and it's exhausting. You'll make a lot more friends being nice, and you'll realize after high school kind of how silly it is to act that way. And really, once you get into the real world, even in college, how much more open-minded people really are. And in the business world, just how none of that flies at all. Like I said, in the NFL, like not one time did I hear anything homophobic. And I retired in 2012. And even in the last 10 years, things have changed so much. So really, the sooner you can take the mindset of just being kind, the better. And I'm part of the gay community. Do I understand everything that goes on in the community, all the different identities, everything? No, I don't understand all of it, but it doesn't affect me. As long as someone's kind and not hurting someone, let them be them. Once again, I get it, it's tough to understand. No one chooses to be straight, no one chooses to be gay. It just doesn't make sense why you would choose to make your life more difficult. So, you guys here, I'm sure a lot of you come from influential, powerful families, and just going to school here sets a lot of expectations for your future. I'm sure a lot of you are trying to get into Ivy League or kind of live up to your family name, and the number of distractions that you can eliminate moving forward, whether it's sexuality or anything that you can't control and just be open with, is going to make your path forward a hell of a lot easier. I promise you. I don't know where I would be today if I would have come out when I was young. I certainly wouldn't have played football, but I know the first 30 years would have been a lot happier. Saying that, would I go back and change anything? No. It made me pretty tough. I was able to retire at 30. I just do this stuff for fun when people reach out. I got a great life in Denver now, and I got a lot of friends, and I can really do whatever I want. But it doesn't mean I can't stand up here as an example of really what you shouldn't do. I played in the Super Bowl and, buddies with Tom Brady or whatever, and did a lot of cool things, and still get to do a lot of cool things because of football, but you don't want to do what I did. I think sports are great. I think it's the situation of being on a team and learning to work together sets you up well for the future. But unlike me, you don't have to feel the need to do something you don't really want to do just to try to fit in. It's really all comes down to just don't being afraid to pave your own path. Like I said, I know expectations are high going here and probably with your families, but do your own thing, you'll be a lot happier. There is no timeline you have to follow. Life will be a lot better. It's going to be scary. It'll be scary as hell for a couple of years after you jump out on your own and trying to figure it out. But I promise you got a support system out there. Once again, I'm not talking just about being gay. I can talk all day long about the sports leagues and everything else for the community, but you'll be much better off in the long run. And you guys are lucky here too, because this is actually a co-ed private school. This is the first co-ed private school I've gone to. I've gone to a lot of old boys schools. Traditions are strong. The whole toxic masculinity thing is very strong. But here you guys actually have an opportunity to interact with the opposite sex. I spoke at Roxbury Latin School in Boston a month or so ago, and I learned that, so that's an all boys school, people don't know. Basically, any interactions they have with their sister school, it's like a reward. So it's like a treat to be able to hang out with females. And here you guys get to all mingle and do whatever you want. I was even told you guys have opportunities to live in a co-ed dorm, but not many people are doing it, or nobody's doing it. You have a chance to live with a girl has a chance to live with a guy, but you aren't taking it. I think in 10 years you'll look back and go, oh, that was stupid, I should have done that. So, you have a lot of opportunities here that most other private schools don't. So I know tradition's strong, boys want to live with the boys, I get it, but you got some opportunities here that, you should maybe look into. And you guys have a good staff here. I haven't got to meet most of them, but the ones I've met, they're here for you. I know if you're going through something, you want to talk to them about anything. I'm up here as a gay guy, but this isn't just a gay talk. This is just a, in general, be yourself and be kind. They'll listen. They're not going to judge you. They've lived a life. So I think you could feel confident and comfortable talking to your teachers. I think they're also good mentors here in the community, and they're around you so much, and your families, a lot of them are gone. So find comfort in that. So I think watching the time, I think I'll close by saying once again that you guys have a heck of an opportunity right now to pave your own path and be a great example. Most of you, a lot of you, are expected to do great things and be an example. I did great things. I was an example to a lot, but I was a terrible example. So don't do what I did. If you're a leader of a team, be a good example. At one point in college, my coach called me a cancer to the team because I was that toxic. I was just that guy harassing everyone. I was just so insecure. And thankfully, I've had time to go back and apologize to people and talk to the coach. And he gets it now, but still, there's no excuse for the things I did. So, like I said, start early, be yourself. And if you need to talk to someone, I encourage you to talk to your teachers. And I appreciate it. We're going to do a Q&A after in what room?
Q&A in the black box. Q&A in the black box. If you have F block and you're interested in coming, please get permission from your teacher before you just pop out. Mr. Allen does not want to get any emails about you skipping class.
There we go. We'll see you there if you want to talk more.